Thank you. The next time I come to speak here, I would like to speak after Ashley. There's really nothing left to say after she got finished, so I don't think I should take up your time saying it. Thank you very much. No. So, I want the graduates to understand this is not the first graduation I ever spoke at. I think back to my grade school, high school, college, and law school graduations. I don't remember who the speakers were. When you speak at a graduation, you're kind of like the body at an old Irish wake. They need you to have the event, but you're not expected to say very much. So to the President, John W. Mills, to the Provost, Richard Nelson, and to all of the faculty, to all of the vice presidents, to an alumnus, Wally Gansey, who invited me to come and speak here today, and to one other person. When I was governor, somebody came in and said that so-and-so said that Governor Spitzer was going to appoint him to this board. Now, it's not like I was going to call Governor Spitzer and ask him at the time. And so you have to take somebody off the board to do so. And I took someone off the board, and a good friend of mine named Bob Wilmers told me that's a big mistake. I didn't really realize what a big mistake it was until this morning, when the chair of the Board of Trustees, Phil Saunders, came to pick me up. He told me he was that person. He also told me he's not taking me home. No, he didn't say that. But thank you all for having me here today. The great author, Ayn Rand, informs us in The Fountainhead that thousands of years ago, the first person invented fire. And although she suggests that this person was probably burned at the stake that they taught their brothers and sisters to light, they offered the world a gift that had never been perceived and forever lifted darkness from the face of the earth. Throughout the centuries, there have been men and women who took first steps down new roads armed with nothing but their own vision. The great leaders, the thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors stood alone against the societies of their time. Every new thought was opposed. Every new invention was denounced. But these people who had an unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, and they paid, but they won. And what they won and what we celebrate here today is freedom. It is the most innate quality that this country was founded on, the right to be individual and the whole concept of individualism. People who work for themselves, they don't worry about the benefits they might receive from it. It's their work, not any accolades that might be accomplished, that drives them. And more, we are moving into a society where people think first about how things are going to affect them and not as much about how they can contribute to the society itself. And so as you leave here today, or whether you are coming from a new expertise in the area of forestry and land treatment, or hotel and tourist management, whether it is in the culinary skills or the liberal arts or business, you have your life completely in front of you. And unfortunately, right now, it is a difficult life, because just a few weeks ago they announced that the unemployment rate went up from 8% to 9%. And the worst thing about it is that there were 300,000 jobs created in that month. So how could there be more jobs created and the unemployment rate went up? Because technology continues to take more and more jobs away from us. This is a very difficult time, and you will endure a lot of hardships that your predecessors did not. And that's why it is so important that your family, your friends, those who taught you, those who came to observe today, that we all let it be known that we are behind you, because we're looking for you to reverse some of the poor judgment that put us in this position now. And you, hopefully, will be the beneficiaries of the world that you will inherit when you leave here. I hope that everyone will take every opportunity to be as engaged and as involved in every activity that interests you, whether it's professional or otherwise. And don't let yourself be deterred by setbacks or these kinds of obstacles or difficulties or embarrassment. Now, just as you remember all of the great times, you'll also remember those embarrassments. And I'll tell you one that I had. I was a graduate of law school, and I became a prosecutor. And I would go to court the first month I worked there and watch the other prosecutors work. And then I came in one day, and my boss said to me, "I hear today is your birthday." And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "Well, why don't you do something on your birthday you've never done before?" I said, "Good, after work, let's go out and have a drink." And he said, "No, that's not what I was thinking about." He said, "Why don't you go to court and present the case today?" And I said, "Maybe I'll do that on my next birthday." He said, "No, you can do it today. This is a defendant that is unable to assist their counsel because they are mentally disabled. And so therefore, you cannot try an individual if they can't assist their lawyer. So he will be remanded to a state institution. All you have to do is get up and tell the judge that, and then the defense attorney will agree with you, and you're out. And happy birthday." So I went up, and I said to the judge, "Your Honor, this defendant," I remember his name, Ronald Galella, "he is unable to assist his counsel, and 2 court-appointed psychiatrists with a reasonable degree of medical certainty have determined that he is unable to assist his counsel, and therefore he will be remanded for an order of retention to a state penitentiary." And then the defense attorney got up and he said, "Your Honor, we agree with the prosecution, and the defendant should be remanded to an institution." And if he'd just stopped there, everything would have been fine. But he said, "But Your Honor, Mr. Galella says he'll abide by any decision that you make. But he would like you to read this letter that he's written to you." And they hand the letter up, and the judge reads the letter and hands it back. Now, I know that my boss is sitting behind me, all the people in my bureau are sitting behind me, and the one thing that my boss always said, they don't see anything that we don't see. So I said, I'd like to see that letter. And the court clerk said, "You want to see the letter?" I said, "Yes, I want to see the letter." And they handed me the letter. Now, I knew that I couldn't read the letter, but they don't necessarily know that, so I just held the letter up real close. And I'm reading the letter, and the clerk tries to take it away from me, and I pulled it back, and I said, "I'm not finished reading this letter." And he says, "Fine." So I'm continuing to simulate reading this letter. And you'd know something's going wrong. You just hear this murmuring in the background. And this guy who worked with me walked up to me and he said, "David, give them back the letter. The man is crazy. He wrote nothing but a page full of the letter G. All you're looking at is a page full of G's." So I handed the letter back. And the judge said, "The only thing more profound than that letter is the prosecutor's fascination with it." Now, do you remember that scene in The Wizard of Oz when the Cowardly Lion ran out and dove through a window? I wanted to be that person at that moment. And so, as you go into your careers and as you celebrate this great time in your period here at Paul Smith College, I'm just hoping that you won't forget where you came from. You won't forget these 14,000 acres that adorn and adjacent to the Adirondack State Park, to the wonderful tourism that exists in Lake Placid, and also all that you learn in the people here. If you have something that you learned here, maybe you can come back and tell someone else about it in the future. It really is the art of not forgetting where you came from and and being willing to give back to this wonderful, wonderful university. One of your alumni gave back when he asked me to be here today. You can determine whether that was a good idea or not. But the reality is that this is a great moment. It is a great achievement, and it really should be celebrated. So have a wonderful time, and don't forget this day. Enjoy yourselves. And now I will tell you that, again, I don't really remember who spoke at my high school graduation, but this is what I do remember. There were two people who I remember from that graduation. One was a person named Emery Cooper, and the other was a woman named Cheryl Clark. Emery Cooper, I'm not sure whether he really graduated or they just let him march, and he could come back and try to graduate later on. The last time I saw Emery Cooper, he wasn't in a very particularly great situation. I passed him on the street one day. But as everyone came up to get their diploma, Emery Cooper's turn came, and this baby got loose from his mother and actually ran up. Our stage was an elevator, just ran up to the front and sits on the floor and starts crying while Emery's trying to get his diploma. And for whatever reason, and this was probably the last diploma Emery would ever see, he picked the baby up and took it back to its mother. When he came back, the baby had drooled all over him, and everybody thought that that was really a very interesting event that happened to Emery. But Cheryl Clark, who preceded Emery, who was our school valedictorian, who had a class average, I believe, of about 108. I actually had a crush on Cheryl, but I never knew how to start a conversation with a person who wonders about concepts like, why is there air? But Cheryl Clark stepped over the baby, got her degree, and went back to her seat. And what I remember about that graduation is that Cheryl Clark could not, with all of her ability, teach me something that Emery Cooper taught me that day, and I think it's what we call priority. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Thank you for allowing me to invite you to inherit the earth. Thank you very much.